Hey there, and welcome to this quick presentation on NetSuite ERP, my choice of cloud SaaS ERP system for the 21st century, system I can truly stand for. What you currently see me is being logged into the home dashboard of my administrator role for the NetSuite account. And let me quickly switch over to a department head role. Much better. And what you can already see with this quick jump is two things. First of all, NetSuite is purely in the browser. This is a true from the scratch cloud system, fully responsive in a browser, just like you expect it from any website. And second, as you can see, there's everything on one UI. I have just switched roles from my administrator role across all locations to this department head role for just one single location. That's why my subsidiary navigator has been blanked out. And you have seen that whilst the UI on the top, the layout has stayed the same, the center tabs, as they are called, the menu sections have now changed completely, as I have customized this from scratch. And this one here covers all the department heads use cases, neatly arranged to the life cycle of the business process, from creating activities in CRM over creating sales to project management. He's in the services sector, then procuring materials for his project deliveries. It's in fact in the landscaping business, to inventory management, accounts receivable, accounts payable, employee management, onwards to Facebook-like social features for his employees, bank payments, the general ledger, and so forth. The possibilities in customizing the UI are extensive, and likewise how you can present data aggregated. Oops, he doesn't have access to this one. How you can present data across departments, across other classifications, and across entire holding companies. But before we go here into further details, let me show you a framework, just a quick layout about what NetSuite is all about. And you forgive me for that, because I have not embedded it yet into NetSuite itself. Soon to happen. We resort to our classic PowerPoint slide. Why NetSuite? And I think this single slide sums it up quite nicely. The slide shows us what Cloud SaaS is about in general and what NetSuite does so well. Let's start from the bottom so you quickly can see where Cloud SaaS clearly distinguishes itself from legacy systems, which I prefer dubbing 20th century solutions. Cloud SaaS stands for software as a service that is run on the internet, independent of your customers or your own infrastructure. And NetSuite does this on an enterprise grade level. How come? First of all, because they are running in dedicated data centers hosted by themselves, or now, since the acquisition by Oracle, in Oracle data centers, which are taking care of all the infrastructure, so you don't need to worry about it. They give a guaranteed uptime of 99.998%. They have disaster recovery plans, which are related to several data centers, copying data over in locations that are at least, I think, 50 to 100 kilometers set apart. They are complying with ISO standards, both in terms of data security as well as operations of the actual data center. SOC 1 and SOC 2 having become a very important standard in the context of US American data security standards. It's also multi-tenant, allowing you to run it across several data centers. You have no version lock. You're always on the newest version, because this is SaaS. That means the system is continuously developed and there is a release upgrade cycle twice a year. Twice a year you get a complete update of the system. And as we go further up into the other levels of this, I call it my mountain tube, you will see how this is so critical. And last but not least, The infrastructure also provides for sandboxes which you can purchase, can subscribe to, that allow you to develop independently of your production system. This is all taken care of directly by NetSuite. In fact, we cannot even touch it. Moving to the next layer, and this is something where NetSuite truly shines. There are plenty of cloud SaaS systems out there by now, but this system, having been envisioned 20 years ago, in fact, has taken the platform approach as the basis of their development from the very start. Platform, what is this all about? PaaS, platform as a service, the big buzzwords which you hear out there in the news these days mean that you do not just navigate through a system, that you just get a system presented in the cloud, which you open in your browser. No, you can actually customize it, you can tweak it, and you can add additional functionality. Currently, the most prominent platform providers certainly are Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. But there are actually players out there that have pushed it much further. And you will see, you can tell by the quotations on the web, on the stock exchanges, are thriving even better. Big players such as ServiceNow, Pegasystems, or a Swiss one, Appway, all adhere to that idea. But NetSuite is around for 20 years, and they have been using that. As such, the only other player I know of which also is driving such a clear platform approach is Salesforce, but they are stronger in the CRM area, not in the ERP. Now this is still abstract for you, I can imagine, and I will quickly, but very quickly show you afterwards what this boils down to. Just bear in mind that for Oracle NetSuite, this platform is dubbed Suite Cloud, and it consists of a suite builder functionality, which allows even functional consultants or end users to with a click of a few buttons, adding new fields to the forms, to the database, and even to the APIs exposed to external systems. What takes a day or even a whole week in other systems to customize, especially the bigger players, NetSuite really allows to do that in 1 minute. What is more, it also has a graphical interface called SuiteFlow that allows you to stitch together application steps, just like the player ServiceNow and the others are presenting these days. NetSuite has had it for a long time. Where the UI does not suffice any longer, NetSuite offers SuiteScript, which is their API version based on JavaScript. It's not entirely different from JavaScript, and I would say 95% of all JavaScript commands work in NetSuite. That makes it for an easy entry for technical consultants, ensure and really developed functionalities, but also that you can scale this baby. In fact, many hard-boiled object-oriented and class-based developers out there would say, well, JavaScript, that's nothing compared to, well, C++ or Java or C#. But in fact, the SuiteScript version of JavaScript is pushing it to server-side scripting, to multi-threading scripting, leveraging on MapReduce functions on several processes, on complex structs and built-in objects which we can leverage on for various things. Just trust me, once you see a few code lines, you will see the power in that. On the other hand of this pie chart, we have the interconnectors, the connectors to other systems, because when we talk SaaS, when we talk cloud, we want to be able to integrate easily. And in the internet, this is all done by the web services standard. REST and SOAP interfaces are what's driving the cloud ecosphere, and NetSuite has built this in from the very start. What is more, in contrast to other providers, which I do not want to name here, every single field, every single record, whether standard or what you customized with Suite Builder and SuiteFlow, is immediately exposed and available to SuiteTalk. And if you are worried about security, open authentication 1.0 standard with a token generation tied up to a user account and then again tied up to an access token will make sure that you can control access in this web service integration at any level and track it immediately. And if you still need to connect to on-premise solutions with Suite Analytics and Suite Connect in particular, NetSuite offers an ODBC connector, an open database connector to on-premise solutions, which allow to immediately push data back and forth at the back end. But trust me, the days of direct database access, unless for maybe data warehouse housing, they are over. You should really go by the application layer these days, as all the validation, all the security measures, permissions and the likes can be immediately executed. This is the true power of web service, and this is where systems must go to comply with today's expectations to security. NetSuite has been there from the start. Last but not least, NetSuite is actually providing us, the developers, Suite Bundler, which allows to deploy all these customizations which we have done on their platform across various instances to other customers, to other partners, and in fact even publishing it on their version of the App Store on the internet, and then sell it there to others in a very convenient way. That is the Suite Bundler. These tools allow us to directly develop in the same UI which I previously showed you, just on another center tab there. Deploy it to other customers. And that not just a technical consultant which needs to script in JavaScript or in HTML, no, even functional consultants, even the end user. A savvy CFO can do that, him or herself. Having said that, how is this put into use on the application layer? As NetSuite has themselves have developed everything on this platform, you get this in the core of the application layer. But NetSuite is continuously developing the functionality with the 2 release upgrades already mentioned, which you get twice a year. And this is then published as advanced modules. Yes, you have to pay extra for that, but look at the power. But importantly for us as a developer, we ourselves can contribute that, and we can add to the stack. And that is the so-called Suite Apps platform. Go to suiteapp.com and you see what kind of applications, apps, just like you find on your Android web store or on the iOS, on the Apple iOS store or whatever it's called. We're talking about localized shipping for rather remote countries. We're talking about DocuSign, which has created their own integration, so you can sign PDF files directly in NetSuite or receive them there, store it there. I haven't seen the limits yet, to be frank. So this is just from a conceptual basis to understand how NetSuite fares this modular approach, fully leveraging on their Suite Cloud platform, something other players in the market cannot replicate so fast. And that's why I'm so confident about this system reigning prime amongst the players in the near future. But this is all nice not so nice if you do not put enterprise-grade classifications, currencies, just these expectations which you have to a complex company in place from the start. And that's also something which NetSuite has tackled from a very early stage. And let me address this before we actually get to the functionality of the system. That is, first of all, everything, and you saw me navigating through the system before, is done in one instance. Regardless of how many companies you have, you put them in one instance. You don't need to log in and log out again. You do not need to switch roles just to get to another company. You can jump between companies by the click of a button. You saw my subsidiary navigator. Next, it's all in one UI. Actually, NetSuite bought up plenty of companies over the last 20 years. Go and check it out on Wikipedia. But they have never just created a connector and connected with that other one. Users clicking on a button, another pop-up opening, and you just then suddenly see a completely different interface and you first need to get used to that. It's all built into the stack. And you saw how I could navigate between procurement, inventory management to CRM functionality in one single menu bar. Training, user adoption is massively supported by this concept. And even more radically, Everything builds on one database. Everything goes into one database. And that is not a data warehouse where you ultimately call on for reporting. It's truly one database, and you can jump from foreign key, foreign link to, from activities tied up to an employee over to the employee's projects, onwards to the project task, to the employee's time entry, to where, on which invoice this time entry has been billed, onwards to what materials have been used on that invoice, all in one script. I don't know many systems that can do that. And frankly, that's a selling point for an Oracle database which lies underneath. But it doesn't just stop with this one concept, which is stringently followed until now, but they have implemented multi-language, and name it French, Japanese, with Japanese characters, Chinese characters, Bahasa, it's all in there. And they're working on it on a continuous basis. There's multi-currency, and you can record any transaction in any currency you want. There's even some fancy Swiss currencies which they introduced. If it has an ISO code, NetSuite covers it. It's multi-subsidiary, already mentioned, meaning that with a few clicks you can add an additional subsidiary. This takes weeks in other systems. Here you just click a button and tell which fields, which records actually are exposed to this new subsidiary which you created. And you have an entirely new company set up. What is more, with the built-in stack, tax codes, reports, report layouts, transaction standards for these various countries, you don't need to configure this stuff from scratch. NetSuite has it built in. You go to Malaysia and you have learned that they have new sales tax codes. NetSuite has them in place. You go to Switzerland, have no clue how a sales tax report there looks like. NetSuite already has it in place. Just configure the tax codes. Well, I need to do something, right? Otherwise, you don't need me at all. And once I've configured them, you pull the reports. Does France have special balance sheet layouts? Hell, they do. But NetSuite has them in place. You don't need to configure them from scratch. This is very powerful, and that sets them apart from many other players. Multi-subsidiary would be useless if you cannot consolidate. Yes, you can roll up those transactions, you can eliminate, you have elimination entities, and you have special transaction records called intercompany journals that allow you to eliminate. Until last year on a bilateral basis, but since last year, you can do advanced intercompany journals where you can tie up, I think, as many subsidiaries as you want in a single transaction. You go into one transaction and you see how you distributed those rent costs or those other utilities costs across various locations, across various subsidiaries, and so forth. And with that, I already addressed the next topic. You named the biggest players, and they struggled hard to introduce cost centers. NetSuite has multiple versions of cost centers, so-called multi-classification. You can run branches or locations in one subsidiary. You can tie up as many departments as you want and sub-departments in a single subsidiary. And you have Joker, actually several Joker dimensions in addition that allow you to report in it. And once I quickly head over afterwards to a profit and loss statement, you see how these classifications are immediately pulled up and how you can expand your profit and loss statement across subsidiaries, across departments, across classes or locations with a click of a button. Nice and neat. But what about customers which you share across subsidiaries? Global entities are in place and are still expanding, not yet currently available for employees because assuming they just have one employment contract. Customers, vendors, partners can be used across, at least customers and vendors can be used across subsidiaries. You have that one big customer which multiple subsidiaries of you use. You do not want to create him several times in the various, well, as you call it in old system, mandates, because you want to see on one CRM dashboard how these various subsidiaries, departments, locations are dealing with their customer. NetSuite allows you to. And most importantly for me personally, NetSuite gets it right with the global roles and permissions concept. And once you see how granular the permissions are for every standard record, for every standard transaction, but also every single field which you add with Suite Builder, every single custom record which you add to Suite Builder, every single user profile, you will see where the power comes in and how you can make sure that your data is safe, because we're talking financial data. So this is truly built for enterprise, whether in one country with many subsidiaries or globally with many subsidiaries and locations and maybe departments and divisions, you name it. I give you the classification and you run it out of one UI. This is what's behind NetSuite. And this is what I haven't seen in aggregate in any other system. And I've browsed quite a bit. But maybe you don't bother about all this because you just want to see the actual functionality. So let's have a look at the scope of what NetSuite ERP covers, because it's long beyond ERP. It certainly starts with financial planning, allowing for budgeting, going over to CRM functionality, marketing automation with newsletter campaigns, integration with inbound marketing tools. And you track that all on one table with leads, prospects, and customers. Then that also ties into client relationship management. You can create tasks, meetings, phone calls directly on those various records. It has a mobile app. When you receive a call, the mobile app prompts you to which customer, to which lead or prospect in the system you want to tie this up. And you can then also sync it with your Outlook client and immediately in Outlook classify emails to one of your customers. It syncs in the background via web services. We talked Sweet Talk already, and immediately bam shows up on your dashboard in your system. And then there's also Salesforce automation, which allows to pump through to do proper pipeline management, pumping from leads to prospects to customers, creating opportunities, them automatically being converted, leads getting qualified based on opportunities record which you might create. There's a lot of automation in there which help you to make sure that the data is in line and then that your reporting is up to date. NetSuite from the very beginning on had e-commerce in mind. It was one of the key verticals they targeted, and you have a built-in e-commerce platform without any surcharges. But more importantly, they have recently released a platform called Suite Commerce Advanced. I can send you the link, and that one looks, in my opinion, even better than Amazon. But once you get all this, you want to actually cash in. And NetSuite has a sophisticated order management based on estimates, quotes, and ultimately sales orders that you pump out to B2B client or to B2C. And you can tie in your partners creating their own sales orders all out of one UI. Then you want to bill. And with advanced billing, subscription billing, you can also do recurring billing for software licenses, or when you need to, when it comes to revenue management, immediately attach a revenue recognition schedule across as many months as you want directly to a single invoice. There is no manual step anymore where you need to do deferrals and accruals at the end of a month. You do it straight on the transaction at the beginning and it gets let through. This ties in from an order. You can create special orders or dropship item orders which immediately trigger a procurement step, creating purchase orders. But you can also go into conveniently, really nicely created suitelets where you can select which items you need to reorder. The system tells it to you based on a demand planning features based on algorithms on your previous 6 or 12 months of consumption, or you can also do it based on restore points. And you just saw there the 15 items which I had to order, that will be brought forward. And that item actually needs to be ordered at 150 because otherwise we don't get our discount from the supplier. Inventory management ties in with that. You can have multi-location inventory. You can have inventories shared by subsidiaries because this is one database, this is one UI, this is one instance. No problem to that. You can introduce bins which are shared across inventories locations. This is really powerful and allows you to manage your inventory in the most efficient way. And here are my two babies, because when we talk about post-logistics industries, we're talking about service industries. Switzerland has over 80% of their revenue generated out of service industries, and NetSuite gets that right. They haven't stopped with logistics. They haven't stopped with materials processing. They acknowledge that in post-logistics, post-manufacturing industries, such as consulting companies, marketing agencies, office rentals, and so forth, the primary enterprise resource is no longer a lot of steel or a serialized computer item. It's the human resource. It's people. And they acknowledge this, managing, having extensive and employee records with job costing, with work calendars that allow you to track and rebuild these costs to see how much the gross profit, the GP, is on an employee's effort on 1 month, on 2 months, on a quarter, or even on a daily basis. And currently with Sweet People, they are working on more than that. They are working on leave, they are working on appraisal systems and so forth that allow to really acknowledge the human resource people as a driving component in the system. This is something, and HCM is currently that buzzword in cloud SaaS. This is something which the big other players are lagging behind 5 or 10 years. But what the CFO wants at the end of the day is he wants it all, or she wants it all rolled up into one financial reporting engine. And NetSuite has that. And I want to show you how a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet looks like, and how you can clicking and drilling down into the individual transaction, whether it's an inventory adjustment, whether it's a sales order which you decided to already have a revenue impact, or whether it's to an opportunity which you have waited and on a sales pipeline. NetSuite allows it all out of one single UI. And when it comes on top of that, it's real time. This is all real time. So I can only imagine how they pushed the power of Oracle database to the limit. It's all real time. Whether the subledger accounted for accounts payable has deleted that one cash sale which I've just created, it's pumped instantly through up to the CFO's profit and loss statement. No batch runs, no separate subledgers from the general ledger. It's all one giant table called transactions where things are pushed through. Surely there is a limitation in terms of performance, and it surely means that this is not built for the biggest of companies. But whether you have 50 employees with a turnover of 1 to 5 million, or whether you have 1,005, I've seen the system runs smoothly for companies with 5,000, 10,000 employees and the turnover 100 million. This is still manageable with this system. So this was now one big teaser, and you probably won't believe it. So head over to the next video and I'll show you top down how this actually is put into place. But before that happens, let me quickly tell you why I think that NetSuite is the right company to actually fulfill this promise of NetSuite. Because at the end of the day, it's all just about how good an implementation is, how good the training is, and how people ultimately can endorse the system. So quickly about NetSuite, it's a fresh company. Just founded this year in 2018. It's registered in Singapore, but the capital says quite a bit. It's actually already 100 about how serious we are about this. The business model is not so much focused around license fees. Surely we appreciate the licensees shared, but we want to get the implementation done right. So the business model is centered on consulting services in implementation and development of additional functionality in the Suite Apps framework. The portfolio is centered around all ERP, SaaS, and IPS solutions, going ahead with the NetSuite platform and then enriched with things NetSuite doesn't do, shouldn't do, or probably will never do. We're talking about file storage. You better go to Amazon Web Services for that. We're talking about BI solutions. You better integrate with an IPAS and have that handled by a proper data warehouse. You can do data warehousing in NetSuite, just create a few more custom records. But at the end of the day, you want to you don't want to abuse a system. And that's also where we can provide solutions. And important, very important, this is mobile cloud from the start. I don't know anything else. That's the thing. This company is run by a generation of people that have grown up with SaaS, with cloud. We don't know anything else. We have our emails run on Office 365. We are sharing our knowledge not through a network shared folder. I mean, hey, I need to run this somewhere, and then I need to manage the securities. Now we run this through Microsoft Teams. We use NetSuite ourselves for our platform. We have the mobile app. We track things, our time there. No on-premise infrastructure, except for the notebook I'm recording this video from. Unique selling points across other suppliers also exist, as NetSuite certification is taken seriously. We are a global company from the start, currently focused on the DACH region, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and Southeast Asia. We're living the cloud strategy. As I mentioned, we are using these tools ourselves. We are curious about it. We spend our weekends on how to configure these things. And you profit from this. We don't just do sales talk, we live it. And we need to be careful that we don't give you too much for free. The same for modern training methods. No more Excel sheets with unreadable, long, lengthy cells. We do videos, we do video sessions, we use WebEx, we use Skype for Business conference calls to train, to record. This can be done at once. This is no overhead. This makes things easier and you pay less. And we have close ties both to NetSuite product management because they are acknowledging us, our enthusiasm and our edge here, as well as to the channel management. The credos are clear. Think Swiss, act Indonesian. We fuse the two philosophies. Switzerland is known for the systematic, for the clear, and for the sustainable approach. Think it over thrice before you do one move, and you document every move. You have a consistent methodology when it comes from evaluating a customer's business process, to presenting a concept, to writing the customization and the configuration, down to every single script needs to have the same naming convention for variables, for functions, so it can be easily recognized and acted upon. But act Indonesian because Switzerland is slow, and with an agile approach that is willing to try and experiment, to go several iterations in direct close interface, not somewhere up in a bunker, down in the bunker, à la Swiss réduit. No, it needs to be agile. That's where we clearly also need to acknowledge. And you want to do it with passion. And then on that side, be ahead of the cloud curve. And we truly believe that if there's a new solution out there, we try it. And trust us, if we figure out that there's a better NetSuite, we probably let you know sooner or later. Because we want to partner with customers. We want to be transparent. We want to get quick feedback, and we want to do joint effort, so that jointly we get it. Everyone shall be a winner. There's a win-win-win solution. There's a win for us. There's a win for you. There's a win for NetSuite. Everyone can be a winner in this, because this is so much thriving, and it's saving so many costs from your infrastructure to your configuration effort. Think about that, 1 minute compared to 1 week. You know how much of a consulting employees you can save, up to, well, frankly, your own employees. Because when it comes to a cash sale with a revenue recognition or an invoice, you don't need that general ledger accountant that revisits all transactions at the end of the month to do manual revenue accruals. The system has already done it. This is really where we think we can excel, where the future is bright. And we also can provide support as such, given the 2 locations, actually 3 locations with Germany in place, with various languages, with proper subject matter expertise, whether it's accounting, logistics, CRM, SRP, my specialty, project accounting, project controlling, HCM, human capital management, or, well, technical stuff like web services, coding entire HTML websites. You know, it's not that much. It's really the world, the scope has become much more integrated and also smaller with the introduction of this whole internet thing. Strict methodology and direct interface with channel managers already mentioned, they add up. And if there's one thing I, as well, originally Swiss can stand for, is that I want to take care of the customer, because I know if I take care, this is a long-term thing and you will come back. So with that, let's have a look at the other videos. There's so much more to talk about.